this is an exciting day. Do you know why it's exciting?
What's that?
Because we're going to talk about dirt. We've got all the dirt on dirt.
That's true. We are dirt. We are doctors of dirt.
We are doctors. I'm going to put that on my tagline. Excuse me, I got to go on to LinkedIn right now. Add that to my profile. I'm a doctor of dirt. Today, I have with me on the Real Green webinar series, my friend Bill Young from Waypoint Analytical. Bill and I feel like we're best friends. We've been talking forever, but we haven't been able to see each other like this. And one day soon, we're going to be together in a room and we'll meet in person. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those in the green industry that don't know anything about Bill Young, tell us all about you.
Well, I've been working for Waypoint for 9 years. Before that, I grew up I'm a small town boy from Arkansas, grew up on a cotton farm, had been around ag almost all of my life. Took a detour to Boston, went to Harvard Business School for a while, came back and wanted to marry what I learned business-wise with what I knew agricultural-wise, and tried to find a career with that unique set of talents. When I came to Waypoint 9 years ago, we were a laboratory company that had 3 agricultural labs doing about 650 to 700,000 soil samples a year. That sounds like a lot. It is. The name of the company at that time was A&L Labs. We were the founding member of the A&L Labs franchise back in 1971. So we've been doing this for a very, very long time, 51 years if you do the math. We owned 7 labs at that point in time, and you may have heard of some of them: A&L Great Lakes, A&L Eastern, A&L Midwest, which is now Midwest, A&L Western, A&L Plains, and A&L Southern, which was in Pompano, Florida. That franchise blew up in the mid-1990s because the A and A&L died in an airplane crash. Oh. So Dr. Large, who was the L, brought in 2 young guys to run his lab, and they are now our owners. And they made some critical decisions in the mid-1990s that launched us to where we are today. And the biggest one was using a malic-free extraction, which means nothing to the guys listening to this webinar. But what it did is allowed us to do next day turn. We ran our lab 24/7, and to my knowledge, we're the only lab in the industry today that does next day turnaround time.
Now, would you go back, Bill? I'm sorry, I missed. What is it that you have implemented that allows you to do the 24-hour turnaround time?
The malic-free extraction. That's the newest extraction out there, but it was created and presented in 1984, which is a long time ago, but we're still the new kid on the block. Most of the industry has converted to it, but several very large players have not. The older technologies are more expensive by definition, and they take longer to run. So we have a strategic advantage on running malic-free, plus we're the only ag lab I know that runs 24/7. That's how we do next day turnaround time. None of our competitors have ever followed the path that we blazed on that. So why is that now important? Well, like I said, I've been here 9 years. Tonight we have 7 labs east of the Rocky Mountains, and we're going to do over 2 million soil samples this year. So there's something about turnaround time and access to timely information which makes sense to people that are growing plants and dealing in dirt. We also have 7 environmental labs, so we are a very, very big presence in the laboratory industry. The association that we have with Real Green hopefully gives you folks the chance to have next day turnaround time and to get people's lawns in good shape. And if you sit back and think about it for a minute, should you soil test every year? Absolutely. Because a healthy lawn or a well-fed lawn is healthy and it looks great. So you wouldn't feed your children once a month. You see dog food and pet food commercials talking about how the animals want to eat and have furry coats. Well, guess what? Your lawn wants to eat too. And we feed it a very limited diet of N, P, and K, and that's about it. But what about the iron, copper, zinc, manganese, boron, sulfur. What about all those elements that that plant wants? We're not giving it to it. And so you're going to ask, well, how do we know what to feed it? Well, that's a double barrel question. One piece is a soil test. It tells us what's available in the soil. But just because it's available in the soil doesn't mean that it made it into the plant. So how do we know what made it into the plant? We tissue test. And that tells us what's in the plant. And then by knowing what's there and what's not there, we're giving you the ability to write prescriptions to custom write a script for every lawn that you have. And so our ability to do next day turnaround time, give it back to Real Green through an API, which gives it to you automatically, just makes it pretty simple. And our job is to make our clients more money by giving them information that's actionable and giving it to them in a timely manner and reduces their stress and their heartache. That's what we do.
That's a lot. That is a whole lot. Now, prior to your relationship with Real Green, which we will get into in just a moment, were you primarily serving the ag community, or were you doing some lawn, turf, and ornamental as well?
Well, I've done a lot of stuff in the ag community. I wouldn't say that I have done a lot in the lawn community before, but I've done a lot in the horticultural industry. And so my whole life has been around this. And the common denominator of all of it is you provide a healthy root environment for that plant, whether it's artificial media or soil, and you feed it properly, you'll see some wonderful things. And if you're a homeowner, I spent several years of my career in commercial real estate. And my boss then said, you sell real estate with curb appeal. So he had this 10th largest landscape company in the country after 2 years, but his buildings were immaculate, and he had a tremendous success selling and leasing commercial real estate property. So curb appeal is a lot. Who wants to drive into a home that's full of dead patches and weeds and it's horrible versus one that should be on the cover of a postcard? That's exactly what we're going to give you the ability to do. So that's what we do. That's who we are.
That's interesting. You said when you were in real estate, you're selling curb appeal. I had the pleasure one time of visiting Cook's Pest Control down in Alabama. And if you know anything about the Cooks, they're a 200 million plus lawn and pest company, very powerful market strength in the South. And I said to them, which do you prefer, lawn or pest control? And of course, I'm a lawn care gal, Bill, but I'll never forget Mr. Cook saying, I think I prefer pest control because it's easier to kill something than it is to make something grow. And that's so true. If you think about commercial chemical turf care, we're selling a promise. When the customer pulls in the driveway that day, if the mower's been there, there's nice crisp lines across and they feel good writing that check. When they get the invoice from Go Green, from your lawn care company, we're selling a promise that we're going to deliver results at some future point. But what happens when we don't deliver those results? What about when the lawn doesn't improve? And in terms of soil testing, I consider myself a pioneer in the industry. Most of my colleagues have relied on soil testing only for break fix. Bill's lawn is not responding. There's something very out of sync here in the turf. And so what is wrong? Did we have a spill? Is there something coming in from outside that's creating this atmosphere where the turf is not thriving? And so when I spoke to our friends at Virginia Green, Gil Gratton, Joe Donchez, which is how we became affiliated with Waypoint, I learned that at Virginia Green, they do soil testing every year for customers. And they charge the customer for it just proactively. And I thought, if you know Gil, you know that he's very innovative, but it's not just a moneymaker, although make no mistake, it is a moneymaker because I think the average cost or the average price that our customers are charging for that service is $48. And Joe Donchez, who has a degree in ag from University of Penn, said to me, it's like going to your internist. and your annual physical, and your doctor says, you know what, Bill, I'm going to ask you to add some vitamin D. Well, why? Because you're looking at me and you think I need it? No, we did the blood work, and right here it shows that you need more vitamin D, you need more vitamin C, your magnesium. Okay, when your doctor shows you the lab results, and this is what's missing to make you a healthier person, now all of a sudden, okay, I'll go do all of that. It's no different than with your lawn. And what they've determined at Virginia Green is they saw a lot of Lyme. They're in Richmond, Virginia. So they saw a lot of Lyme in that area, but they've found that the customers look forward to this report every year to see if they're making progress. Now, if you are offering the service and providing Waypoint results and there is a deficit, you're going to have to partner with Advanced Turf or someone local in your community to find out how to fix those issues. One of the things you talk a lot about, Bill, is how overlooked you call them the minors. So we're going to talk about those again in a minute. The NPK, I've been talking about that since 1980 something, since I've been in lawn care. That's kind of the low hanging fruit. But tell us what is commonly unearthed, no pun intended, what's uncovered in some of these samples with the minors that you talk about, and how can that information be used to actually upsell it to your customers, maybe new services that are going to be beneficial?
Well, I think it all ties back into the health of your lawn. And if you have brown patch and some of those other things, I know there's some pathological reasons why that's there, but I think a lot of that goes back to a lack of nutrition. And just like you mentioned a while ago about not having vitamin D in your blood, what happens if you don't have iron, copper, boron, or zinc, or manganese in your plants? And a lot of bad pathology is basically there to take out sick plants so that the lawn can regenerate itself. So at the end of the day, if I'm a lawn maintenance guy, and I do not pretend to know your business by any chance, but you're charging so many dollars to cut a yard, you're charging so many dollars to keep the shrubs up, you're charging so many dollars to put mulch in the flower beds, you're charging so many dollars to put NP and K down. Why not just spend a few more dollars and get a world-class lawn, because you now have all the information? And in the business world, if you have more information, you tend to make better decisions. And if somebody wants a picture postcard yard or wants to win yard of the month, why not get the information to help get them there?
That's brilliant. And Gil Gratton does the right thing for his customers at Virginia Green. So I know that when they started doing this for customers, he really wanted to learn about the Richmond soil. And they've done more soil samples with Waypoint in Richmond, Virginia than anyone else. They know more about lawns there. The number is staggering. And I'll have to get with Joe Donches and figure out what it was again. It's in the hundreds of thousands of soil samples they've done. So they use that in their marketing, right? We know more about soils in Richmond, Virginia than anyone else, and that's definitive because they've partnered with you. But Joe said what's remarkable is when they're talking to customers, nobody else in the industry in Richmond, Virginia is doing this. Yes, you can have a competitor, and if you have a problem, you can request a soil sample. By the way, your competitors, on average, I'm being told, take around 2 to 3 weeks to get the results back. If I've got a problem in my lawn, I don't want to wait 2 to 3 weeks to get those results back. I want it back now, and I want the fix in place, ready to roll. But Joe said it really does differentiate them when they're having a sales conversation with a customer. When you're holding a soil report from the neighbor, of course, you can point to their lawn and say, it's very beautiful now, but you can also say, they were lacking these 3 elements. And with our executive program, we were able to get the lawn back on track. They now look smarter than the competitors, for sure. Bill, do you think that in a typical residential neighborhood, do you need to do the soil sample every year on my lawn? How much is it likely to change?
Well, that depends on a lot of things. The environment, the weather you had this year, whether it was dry, whether it was wet, how well did your lawn grow? Because the faster it grows, the more grass it gets clipped, the more food that it eats. And so when you look at the cost of what the lawn maintenance contract's probably costing somebody, the cost of the soil sample is really incremental. It's not a lot. So why not deal with the best information you can have and give your customers the best shot at having the best lawn they can have? It seems pretty simple, and we're going to do all this work you're doing now with minimal or no information. How much smarter and better are you going to be if you have information and timely information?
The way that Virginia Green sells soil samples, so anyone can have one for, I think it's $48. But if you take their estate program, which is maybe 9 treatments, it's their highest end program, you get a free soil sample in that bundle. And that has really helped them push that program. They love it because they're out on the lawns longer through the growing season. They're out there more often. That's the customers that are getting the best results, and including that soil sample has really allowed them to scale that program. So there's 2 things we've talked about today that are going to help Real Green customers grow their business. Use Waypoint Analytical that's integrated with Service Assistant. I'll talk about that in just a moment, to grow your business and charge the customers for it. The average cost, and we did a survey monkey on this, is around $48 is what customers will pay for this result. And like my friend Bill just mentioned, when you get the results, there's an opportunity now to upsell other services. For Virginia Green, it's lime. They're in an area of the country that they can almost bet it's going to come back, that that lawn's going to need some more lime. That's an additional service that they provide. But let's talk about plants, and then we'll swing over to exactly how this works, the partnership with Real Green and how easy it is to do soil testing. You all do plant samples as well. And is that typically just, unlike a soil sample where it might be more proactive, is there a reason to do proactive plant samples, or only if you're seeing the growth diminish or if it looks like there's a problem?
Well, by the time you can visually see it with your eyes, it's too late. You've already suffered the damage. You need to do it proactively in advance of, to make sure that you're still healthy. You don't go to the doctor to get a physical when you're laying on your deathbed. You do it every year to find out what's going on. And plants are growing. And when we're talking minor nutrients, when you're talking the majors, you're talking in percentage points. And a percentage point is 10,000 parts per million. So if you've got 4% nitrogen, you got 40,000 parts per million. Boron, maybe 8 parts per million. And just to understand what 1 part per million is, if you had a row of $1 bills stretched out from one end of a college football end zone to the other end, you have approximately 1 million $1 bills. Do you think you or I could tell if something was five $1 bills had been pulled out?
Nope.
Absolutely not. But when you're talking minor elements, the difference between 8 parts per million and 15 parts per million might be a plant that's sick versus a plant that's healthy, a plant that's kind of peat green versus dark green. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. And I'm going to back up for a minute and put a pitch in for the pH. pH is, it's a very important deal, but the microbes in the soil are what control all this. Plants don't eat rock fertilizer. The microbes have to digest that stuff, and then their exudate is what feeds the plants. But if you Google proper soil pH for microbial activity, they're going to tell you it's somewhere between like 6.4 and 8. So if your pH is not right, your microbes are not working. And if your microbes are not working and your pH is not right, guess what? The food's not available to the plant. And it's elementary agronomics, but we've gotten so technologically focused, we've forgotten basic agronomy. So let's just take it back to the basics and grow people some nice yards. And Beth is talking about people charge $48 to $50 for a soil test. Trust me, that's nowhere near what we're charging you. So you have a tremendous profit opportunity just on the test itself. Or if you become a disciple, you could lower the price and do that many more and just run the algebra and see what a maximum return to you is.
You're so smart. Now you had to start talking about parts per million and getting all sciencey on me, Bill. I'm just a lawn care gal.
Hey, I'm just a dirt farmer.
So when I was at Scott's Miracle Grow, the primary service line was lawn care. But we also had this little logo called Miracle Grow. Maybe you've heard of Miracle Grow. And so we had Miracle Grow tree and shrub service that we added. I have worked in lawn care my entire life. A lot of our clients also offer tree and shrub. A lot of them get out of it because of the risk and liability. When you lose a huge tree, how much does that cost? And what can you do to actually prevent it? To your point, you don't know when you see there's a problem, it's usually going to be too late to fix anything. I think that would be another tremendous way to sell this ahead of time to customers in new landscaping when they're putting in, big pieces that are very expensive. Aren't you going to want to know how that's trending?
Right. Plus, you talk about the trees. We have one of the few pathology labs left in America in California. They have a lot of clients trying to take care of those multi-$10,000 palm trees with their pathology. We can help your clients with pathology if they need that. Turnaround time on that's not next day. That's several days. But
Sure.
if you have a disease, you need to know what the disease is in order to treat it properly the first time around. So we're not just a typical dirt lab. Our toolbox has a lot more tools in it. Several PhDs on staff, pathologists on staff. We have a broad, deep bench that sets us apart, and that's just another differentiating aspect to the 7 labs that we have east of the Rocky Mountains. The next day turnaround, of all the things that we do, and that's really why we have grown so much in the past 4 or 5 years.
That's amazing. So let's talk about science and your extraction process and how easy this is if you're a Real Green client to use the integration. You talked about a proprietary or a very special extraction process that allows you to turn these samples around more quickly. But for any of the Real Green customers who've been using soil samples, going out to customers' lawns with the soil probe, there's nothing different on the front end for them to actually extract the soil sample and put it in the envelope sack bag and get it to you all, correct? That's just typical extraction of a soil sample.
Correct. Nothing changes there.
Okay, and so when they become a Waypoint client, do they receive special envelopes, or how do you ask that our customers prepare the soil sample to get it to your lab?
When the individual locations call us, we set up an account for them, and we have supplies. We do not charge for the bags, and they're about the size of the little brown paper bags you used to go to the grocery store and buy candy in. But it's not a paper bag per se. It has a plastic liner on the inside because a lot of soils look wet when you sample it. So we'll give you bags. We've got boxes. You can use your own. It depends on how many samples you're sending. In the ag world, it's not uncommon to get hundreds of samples a day from the same location. In the turf world, is it going to be onesie twosies, or is it going to be 20, 30s, and 40s? And once we know who you are and how big you are, there's certain things we can do to help you out.
Awesome. So at that point, when they become a Waypoint client, you all are going to determine which of those 7 labs east of the Rocky Mountains they should be sending their samples to. So they're always going to send them to the same place. So this part's easy. Go to customer's home, extract the soil sample as you always did. I have a special bag. Waypoint has told me which of these labs I'm going to send it to. And then you all turn it around in 24 hours, which is amazing. And what happens, because of Tina Ferguson on your team, she's amazing. Mike Carden on the Real Green team, Ryan Mullins, Steve Katz, they were able to build the API so that these results are now going to be transmitted and deposited into Service Assistant. If you're using SA5, and of course you're using SA5. So what happens with the handoff from Waypoint after those results are ready In the old days, my friend Brad Leahy would tell me, it used to get mailed to you. Our competitors are mailing or emailing the results, right? But now I've got a data entry job, Bill. So in addition to my customer service reps selling and cleaning up behind technicians and some of that work and serving customers, they now have to enter soil results into Service Assistant and then communicate those to the customer, and then maybe save it in diagram docs, which will be very manual process. You would have to take a picture of it now. In today's world, with the Waypoint Brokering API, that soil sample is going to come into Service Assistant. It'll be a call log. So now some of our customers don't do anything with that call log necessarily. The results are a PDF that gets saved in diagram docs. It's called the Document Center now. I keep going back to SA4 lingo. And it updates the pH field in Service Assistant. You don't have to go in and do that. And if you are routinely soil testing lawns, the pH field in Service Assistant is always going to show the most recent pH results, but you can always go back and see all the soil samples from Waypoint because they're going to be saved in the Document Center. Now, one of our upcoming AMA products, as you know, we are retooling AMA 2.0, but you will be able to automate that and send it to the customer with an AMA email. For right now, you have the option to call them. That's why there's a call log. Some of our customers call every client when this comes back, just to say your soil test turned out terrific, or here's some opportunities where we can maximize these results and maybe sell you a couple of blind treatments or something else. So now all of that is right in Service Assistant. A technician who goes out on the lawn, Bill, and I know you don't know a whole lot about our software, but the next day the technician's out on that lawn, it's updated. He sees all of that information as well. And how smart do they sound if they're talking to the client? Oh, we just received your soil test back from Waypoint, and I noticed your pH, your boron, all of these things are right in line. You differentiate yourself from the competition. And we have taken away the data entry time that you used to have, the admin time. So imagine if you're using a competitor of Waypoints, you might be waiting 2 to 3 weeks for the results. Then the results get emailed to you or mailed. Now you've got a data entry job that's going to sit in the corner because it's not the highest priority over sales and some of these other things. Then someone's going to manually enter it. And by the way, I have hired and trained more customer service folks in the green industry that, other than maybe a couple people at True Green, I've probably done it. Bill, there's an opportunity to fat finger something there as well, right? When it comes through the API, you're going to have a much more secure quality transmission. That pH is going to be updated. You do absolutely nothing but share it with the customer and sound really, really smart. So it's taken a long time. Bill and I have been talking for a very long time to get all this worked out. The Real Green team had some other priorities on dev, and then when they stepped up and got it done, Tina on your team took over. But it is working really well. Virginia Green was our first client. We had a few hiccups with the first couple of clients, just shaking out the cobwebs on the API. I checked this morning, everything is going terrific. And you guys are going to love this. And you're going to love it because you're smarter. You'll sell more lawn care. You can fix more lawns with Waypoint because you're going to get the quicker turnaround time. But you're going to make this a product. You're going to set it up in Service Assistant. My friend Dave Bolter and the guys in print, Linda Thomas, Karen King, they've put together a jumbo postcard, Bill. You helped me tweak it. You looked at it and you go, why is that dog there? We're not selling flea and tick. So we have a brand new graphic on there that our customers can use these jumbo postcards to sell soil samples to their customers. We are always looking for products to add. And lots of times, like, let me give you an example, Bill. We helped our customers add mosquito control. Huge service. Everybody wants mosquito control, right? But you had to have extra equipment. You had to have extra licensing. Your technicians needed to be licensed for that. Some needed different trucks. You've got to find new materials to use. Some needed different insurance. I am giving you all a product today that's going to help you grow your business from a revenue perspective. Also, you're going to differentiate yourselves. You're going to sell more, and you might want to think about adding that estate program that says it starts with the blood test. So we really are comparing this to going to the doctor. You're getting your blood test. You're going to decide what components we need to focus on this year. And when you're selling it annually, it becomes a bit of a report card, if you will, just to show the progress in different areas. And to your point, there are so many things, Bill, as you know, we can't control in the outcome of a lawn. Mother Nature is not always our friend. Some years it is. And with great horticultural practices, when you have homeowners who are partnering with you and they're watering and they're mowing and they're doing things we ask them to do to help enhance the results, when you're partnered with Advanced Turf and some of our fertilizer providers, you're putting the best products down. But it's not always a perfect outcome. So you need this to really see what's going on.
Well, you're right, and let's talk about a couple other things. Most of the people in the green industry today do what we call a basic soil test. They're looking at PK, calcium, magnesium. It only costs a couple of dollars more to get what we call a complete soil test and to find out what's going on with the microbes. And to me, that's $2 that's very, very well spent. The other thing that we do, and I don't know, I don't want to tread on your client's ability, but we can put recommendations on our test results. So if you need miners or you need, and they're all in per 1,000 square feet of lawn. So how many pounds of lime do you need? How many pounds of nitrogen? How many pounds of boron or ounces or whatever? You can feed that either liquid or dry. We don't really care. The other thing that comes up, and we've talked around it, and you and I have talked about it. But if you get on the train right now, you're in much better shape when the regulations start coming. And because we have a lot of environmental labs, understand the government's chain of custody and everything you have to be compliant. We believe that the ag testing world is very shortly going to come under the same regulations as the environmental testing world. And when that happens, a lot of your mom and pop and single location labs are going to go out of business. They'll just never make the transition to what it takes to be an environmental quality lab. We're already there. And in short, I mean, we are another tool in your toolbox that will differentiate you from your competition and will hopefully give your customers better lawns and you a healthier bottom line. And, something you said earlier, Beth, about the things we can't control, like the weather. There is one thing that we can control, and that's making sure that those plants have enough nutrition. And we don't do a very good job of that right now.
I was shocked, Bill, when I reached out to some of my most tenured peers in the industry to say, who do you use for soil testing? And they're still working in large turf and ornamental companies. Well, we really only do it if there's a problem. We don't really want to spend the money, even though it's not that much, unless we have a problem. And when I started talking about what Virginia Green had done, now all of a sudden there's a sales opportunity. I was able to get some folks interested. But the one thing you just mentioned that I wanted to elaborate on a little bit more, I worked very closely with Bob Mann at National Association of Landscape Professionals. Bob is amazing. Andrew Bray and the team, government compliance. I think, and this tidbit's probably 30 days old. There were 45 from January 1st of 2021, 45 new state acts that pieces of legislation that Bob's been following. Hopefully you were on his act team because we are trying to mobilize folks at the state level. And it's coming like a freight train. The Waters of the United States Act, the new EPA restrictions. If you tune into my news every Monday, and of course you do, Bill, we talk about what's going on in Washington, D.C., what's going on with the EPA, what is going on at the state level. And in the green industry, it's a little bit scary because they're starting to send the power back to local government. I thought that was great during COVID, right? Like I want local regulatory control because where I live in Indianapolis, Marion County had a big COVID problem. You're in the donut counties, not so much. We needed to loosen it up. So in those scenarios, you want to put control back to the local areas. But what they're talking about doing with redacting FIFRA essentially is that If you were in St. Louis, Missouri, and you do lawn care treatments across several counties, as most of our customers do, they cross county lines. Marion County can say, this is the restriction. Hamilton County can say, this is the restriction. And if they haven't watered here, you can't put down these fertilizer treatments. It's getting really scary. The regulatory compliance landscape is getting very scary. It's not going to get easier. The neonics, all of the new restrictions they're putting in on pesticide control. And in the end, if you say, why are you doing this? It's usually comes down to protecting soil and protecting water. The best way we as an industry can lock arms and begin to prevent this is with this soil testing, because not only are you sharing with the homeowner, these are the results and this is what needs to happen. In the case of Virginia Green, let's say the EPA knocks on the door in Richmond, Virginia and says, you know what, we think we're going to start restricting X, Y, and Z because it's bad for the soil. I'm not saying Gil Grattan's going to do this, but as an industry, as we all gather these results, it's going to be very easy to say, you're actually wrong. And we have science-backed data that shows this is actually what is retained in the soil. This is what's going on in the lawns in Richmond, Virginia. And I know you serve the ag community. We love farmers. There's a lot of money in that. And it often helps us in turf and ornamental, because from a government perspective, they're usually not going to shut down the farmer. They're usually not going to shut down the food supply. So we try to ride in on their tailwinds. But sometimes, and especially now, they're starting to differentiate. Okay, ag can use these materials in this best practice, but turf and ornamental lawn care cannot. In the state of New York, they are taking away almost all pesticides. Well, in New York City, there are none. So next time you go to Central Park, prepared to be bit by a mosquito, because they're just eliminating all of those with really a lack of science. And that's another reason why I love this relationship with Waypoint, because I know as an industry, we're going to have more science to go back should we need to, and hopefully successfully overcome some of this senseless legislation that's really going to shut down our industry. And it's certainly going to reduce the results. Until we have some really smart people that can make some organic products that are way ahead of the curve. I'm working with a couple guys now that have developed some microbes. You talked about microbes. Of course, that technology is around the corner, but in the meantime, the more information we have, the better off we are, even if it's talking to your own customers. So if you're in Richmond, Virginia, and a customer says, I think I'm going to cancel because I don't necessarily like what lawn care is doing to the environment. I know what I'm going to say if I work at Virginia Green, because they're armed with data now about what's happening with your neighbors' lawns.
Well, the other thing, you used the word science a while ago. What else? I would substitute the word data. We're going to have the data to back up what we're claiming.
Yep.
And science will stand behind that data.
See, you're the Harvard business guy. That's exactly the way. I'm going to edit this, not really, because that was perfect. I love that. Yeah, we're going to have the data, and science will back up the data. And so much of what we see, there's no data and there's no science. It's emotional. And in New York City, why are you doing that? Because we want to protect our children. Okay, well, what would suggest applying these materials and protecting them from West Nile disease or some of the other mosquito-borne illnesses isn't protecting the children. So having data is a very powerful thing. My friend Tim Portland, who is the CEO of Yellowstone, used to say that to us all the time at Scott's. Beth, data is a very powerful thing.
Right. So we're just here to help, and hopefully we can hit a home run.
We will do it. So tell me, my friend, and we will post this in the Real Green Academy webinar, how do we get in touch with you all to get started so that they may do soil testing with Waypoint and have the results integrated into Service Assistant?
Well, I think that y'all are putting out a publication that has email addresses on it, which is either myself or a guy named Porrick McGrory, who's in the Richmond lab. He's a PhD in turf science. He knows what he's doing. If you will contact either Porrick or myself, we will tell you everything that we need. We'll pick the lab for you to go to. Based upon your volume, we'll fine-tune your pricing. And we're probably going to be $1 or $2 more expensive than your current lab. But we're going to be giving you quicker turnaround time and the I guess the ease of the data flow working through the Real Green API. If you want to move up to the complete soil test to see what the miners and everything are doing, that's only a $2 or $3 upcharge. And you know that I guess most labs are charging your clients $10 plus or minus for a soil sample. If they're selling that for $50, there's plenty of room to add $2 or $3 to that and differentiate yourself further by, I've got more information than your competitor has. And if I can make the parallel between your business and my business, you walk into a grower and you show him a soil sample or a tissue sample that's deficient. These guys are so prideful, they don't want deficiencies. The homeowner is going to be the same way. You know, if they're having trouble with their yards now, they got disease, if they got weeds, you know, here is a tool that's going to give you the chance to help them look better and put a smile on their face. And then they're not going to complain when they get the monthly bill about taking care of my yard. I get the best yard on the block.
That is so brilliant. I'm so excited to have you as part of the Real Green family. We need smart, sciencey people. You know, I'm just like the Vanna White. I just turn the letters, Bill. I'm the marketing gal, but you have introduced such an amazing way for our clients to add a service line, charge customers, and by the way, improve the environment, gather data that will be backed by science, and differentiate our customers from the competitors. So thank you very much for your patience with Real Green as we put together this API. We really love being a partner with you all. I will drop in the comments of the webinar how to reach Bill Young and his partner to get started. And we also have a jumbo postcard. We're going to help you, our customers, make this a business in a box and get it out the door this summer.
Well, thank you for your time, and we certainly appreciate working with Real Green.
All right, Bill, thank you. We'll catch up again. We'll do a Soil Academy 2.0, and you can make me even smarter.
Don't know about that. We'll try.
All right, thank you so much. Have a terrific day.
Thank you.